Alright folks, welcome back. Today we've got kind of an interesting one here, at least visually, certainly. We've got a 1997 Colt government model. This is a Mark IV Series 80 gun. It is a 90% certain a carbon steel gun, so it would have been blued originally. You see now it wears a camo pattern. This gun was built by Arizona pistol smith Nelson Ford. Nelson's best known certainly for his work on Smith & Wesson revolvers. He will tell you directly that they are, like children to him. They are in his blood. He's worked on them really his whole career, which has spanned something I think like close to 40 plus years now. Nelson did and I think still does a little bit of 1911 work, but he did a lot more certainly back in the day, in the 90s and the 80s. I think when he was shooting competitively more with these guns. So we'll just start from the top here. The gun wears a set of old tritium night sights, MMC adjustable rear in the Novak cut there. Kind of an old throwback sight. Certainly not one. I don't even think you can buy it today. And if you can, nobody's using them because there are other options available nowadays. But nice thing about it is in the traditional Novak rear cut. So it could be easily swapped out if a guy wanted to. The gun has a Cart National Match barrel in there. Wears a nice muzzle crown there and a National Match bushing. I talked to Nelson today about this gun, and I was telling him what I saw, and he was telling me, confirming the build for me basically, because it isn't marked anywhere. But I said, it's got a King slide stop and a King's ambidextrous thumb safety, and either a reworked Ed Brown or a King's high swept beaver tail grip safety. And he said, oh, that's a King's beaver tail. And he went on to tell me that at one time, for a number of years, he was the largest single consumer of King's parts from King's Gunworks. Now defunct, but at one time they provided some of the best aftermarket parts for custom 1911 Smiths, and Nelson was working on such a significant number of them, installing safeties and whatnot, that he was their largest consumer for a couple of years there. The gun is nicely checkered front and back, checkering carried up onto the grip safety pad, nicely hand serrated on the back of the slide there. It does have a completely reworked trigger. The trigger pull by today's standards it's dead crisp, but don't get me wrong, it has an awesome reset. But it is probably a little heavier than what most cool guys think they ought to have today. I remember when I was getting started, a 4-pound trigger was kind of the baseline. That's what everybody wanted, a 4-pound trigger. This one runs a little heavier, but it, like I said, is dead crisp. Awesome reset on it, and you could probably tune it down to 4 pounds or just under 4 pounds, just with some spring tuning of the sear spring. But there was a time where if the trigger was crisp, nobody really, they weren't waffling. There weren't guys carrying guns for work that wanted a 2-pound trigger for serious work, and nowadays everybody thinks they ought to have a 2 to 3 pound trigger pull. The Magwell, I believe, is a Briley unit, is really seamlessly silver soldered onto the frame. Huge opening there, as you can see. The heel is nicely rounded off. It's just an awesome carry gun from the late 90s. The coating on it is another thing I asked Nelson about, and he said, oh yeah, I had a guy here locally who would do my alternative coatings, so if it wasn't getting bluing or a stainless gun getting bead blasted or what have you, who would do his spray-on coatings, and he would just give the guy a rough idea of colors and pattern, and the guy would always return with these awesome layouts. You can see the pattern is carried from frame to slide perfectly. The finish is dead smooth. So a camo pattern traditionally in a spray-on coating is done in layers, and oftentimes you can feel those layers, but this is dead smooth all the way around, and just like a nice old I don't know, BDU or military camo style pattern. The guy who did the coating was evidently the guy who did all the coatings for AWC suppressors as well. So a durable coating, as evidenced by this gun, which still really doesn't show a ton of wear. I have no idea what the coating is or was, if it's still available on the market. But just a nice, nicely tuned government model. Certainly, you know, one that I think really screams of the late 90s and maybe even early 2000s. And one I'm happy to have and get ready for market here. If you guys like what you see, please subscribe to the channel. Feel free to leave a comment if you know Nelson's work or know Nelson, or just like this gun. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Have a great weekend.